Hi everyone, it's Samantha here from the Dancing Soap Dish. I hope you're well. Well, Valentine's Day is fast approaching, so it's no surprise that today's Melt and Pour Soap project is heart themed. Yes, today I'm going to be showing you how to make these gorgeous heart-shaped bubble wrap Melt and Pour Soap bars. Now these are geranium and grapefruit scented, and they have a beautiful pink and orange coloring to reflect that. I think they're just gorgeous, they're amazing, I love them. This is also the first video in a new series that I'm doing. There won't be any challenge this year. Instead, I'm going to do a bunch of special series. And first up, it's going to be super simple textures for melt and pour soap making. All right, let's get started. So this is what I use to get my sweet little heart-shaped texture on my soap. It's heart-shaped bubble wrap. Yeah, so I found this online, mid to late last year. I went, oh wow, that is amazing, I had to have it. But I've been saving it for Valentine's Day. So it's a 2-meter roll, it's 20 centimeters wide, by 2 meters long. It cost me around about $5 Australian, so not very much at all. And I'm going to pair it today with this 6 by 6 inch or 15 by 15 centimeter slab mold. So the 20 centimeters that I've got is slightly too big for my 15 centimeter mold, so I'm just going to have to cut it down. I'm just going to place my mold in the very corner here, and then I only just have to draw 2 lines. So I'm just sort of marking out with this ballpoint pen here some of the edges where I can, because it's got some supports on the side. And I'm just going to cut out a square. It'll probably be slightly too big for the inside since I've cut around the outside of the mold, but that's okay. I'm going to cut this square out just with some scissors. Make sure your scissors are sharp because bubble wrap can be a little bit tricky to cut sometimes. And then I'm just going to place my bubble wrap, obviously with the texture face up inside my mold, with the plan of so if you've got little bits like this, save them. Don't throw them away because you can totally use that for a loaf top or something like that. I'm going to use every single scrap of this, I swear. Alrighty, so I'm just popping it in my mold. Because the mold's made of silicone, it is quite tacky, and I'm finding that this plastic bubble wrap is sticking to it quite well. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm lining it up in the center. So it is coming up the sides a little bit, so I just want to make sure I get the bit that comes up the side sort of even on each side. There we go. But I'm happy to say that it's sticking quite well to the silicone. The plastic and the silicone sort of like are attracting each other. If you're finding that yours isn't sticking down very well, you might need to use some double-sided tape. You don't want that bubble wrap floating to the surface when you add your soap. But I'm quite satisfied that that is going to stay put. Alright, so now it's time for my first layer. I have these small little glass measuring cups here that I'm going to use, and some neon colours, orange and pink. I just chose those colours because they go with the geranium and the grapefruit scent that I'm going to be doing these soaps. So I'm going to weigh out into each little cup about 30 grams. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 cube of clear or transparent melt and pour soap and 1 cube of white melt and pour soap, because I want an opaque soap, which is why I'm using the cube of white, but I also want these colors to come through and be quite bright. So that's why I've also used a cube of transparent soap. So you see how there it's melted and you can see the transparent on one side and the white on the other, until I mix them together and they just become sort of a milky white color. All right, so now I'll just add a drop of each of these colors. This is quite a strong colorant, so I just want to see what I get. That's a beautiful orange and a beautiful pink, but probably still a little bit too pastel for what I'm aiming for, so I'll add another drop of each. Yes, that's looking much better. I'm liking those colors. A bit of a richer, deeper pink and a richer, deeper orange. That's beautiful. Okay. I'm not going to scent the soap at this stage. This is just going to be a very small layer. Just pop these out of the way. I don't want to knock them over. Okay, so I've also got my isopropyl alcohol on hand, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one color and just sort of very slowly kind of pour it onto my bubble wrap. I'm going to give it a spray straight away with the isopropyl alcohol, not necessarily to try and get rid of any bubbles, but to actually help it move through the gaps around the heart-shaped bubbles in the bubble wrap, because I want this sort of to fill up all those little grooves. I'm also going to use a little bit of orange just to fill up these spaces that are left over. I'm just doing this at random. You don't want to add too much, and I think I've got plenty in there. So what I'm going to do at this stage is I'm actually going to grab a scraper, and I'm going to use my scraper just to make sure that I distribute the soap, you know, all the way along the surface of the bubble wrap so that every little groove has some soap in it. And then also sort of scrape it back into all the grooves so that there's not a lot of soap sitting on top of the bubbles. I mean, preferably there'd be no soap sitting on top of the bubbles, but I've put a little bit too much in. If you feel like you've got way too much, you could tip some out. I feel like I've got just the right amount here. I certainly don't want any more. And I've managed to smooth that out with a scraper so it's a nice even layer sitting on top of the bubble wrap. Now I'm going to let that fully harden. It's quite warm here at the moment, so I had to leave it for a while because I don't really want it to be soft. I want it to be quite firm. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a similar color over the top. But before I do that, I just want to do a little bit of an experiment. I just want to see if I peel back just some of the soap on top of these heart-shaped bubbles, and this really is like the tiniest, thinnest little film, if I'll be able to see the third color come through clearly. Because what I suspect will happen is that the second layer of soap will be so hot that these really thin layers here will probably just be melted. Not the layers that's, you know, thicker and in between the grooves, you know, around the heart-shaped bubbles, but just these really tiny thin layers that are sitting on top of the bubbles will probably melt. But just in case they don't, I'm going to peel back just some random hearts here and there and see when I'm finished if they stand out at all, if it's really obvious where I did those, or if they sort of are all mushed in and melted in with the other colors. So I think that should be plenty. I'll just do that now. See how I've just got, you know, random selection of hearts here and there that I've pulled that little slither of a layer off, and we'll see if that makes a difference to the end design. Okay, so now it's time to pour the next layer. I've gone for 250 grams of white soap base, because together with the 50 grams or so that I already put in, that will be 300 grams divided by, you know, 6 soaps that I'm going to cut into. There'll be 50 gram soaps, which is quite small. They'll probably only be like guest size soaps. You can go bigger if you want to. Basically what you should do is you should calculate how big you want your soap to be, you know, 2 ounces, 3 ounces, or 80 grams, 100 grams, and then calculate, you know, times that by the 6 soaps that you want. Okay, so I've melted this and I'm going with pink again, but I want sort of a different pink. So I'm actually going to also add a little bit of this purple to the pink to make it sort of a darky pinky purple, just to make it slightly different to the pink that I've used already, but also have it be something that matches beautifully with the pink and the orange that I've already used. I am going to be scenting it at this point. Here's my rose geranium and grapefruit essential oils. I've just done them at a ratio of 50-50. Like I said, I use rose geranium. If you've only got standard geranium, that will also be a beautiful scent. You can go ahead and use that too. I've got my isopropyl alcohol again, so I'm just going to give this a quick spray, and then I'm going to pour this whole jug of soap in over a spoon, just to make sure that I don't get any super hot spots melting my soap, melting a hole in my soap or a hole in my bubble wrap, and just going to evenly spread that around. Very easy there. Just scraping out my jug. Alrighty, and now of course a spray with the isopropyl alcohol to get rid of the bubbles. I'm also going to babysit this for a good 5 minutes, because I find when you use bubble wrap there tends to be bubbles that sort of come up from little gaps here and there and everywhere for a good 5 minutes after you've poured. See, there's one that's just appeared there, so I'm going to spray that. So just babysit it for a while, make sure you get any bubbles that sort of take a while to rise to the surface. And that's it. Okay, so you want this to be absolutely set. I've left this overnight. See, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of orange color sort of sitting on the surface there too. I'm assuming that's those little slivers of orange soap that have probably melted under the heat of the second layer, and the color's sort of risen to the surface. I'm just going to turn this over and pop it out very easily. Give it a bit of a tap on the bench. Lovely. And here it is. Oh, that's pretty. It's still got the bubble wrap attached, which was, the bubble wrap's a pink color. So this is just a little bit of soap that sort of snuck down in between the bubble wrap and the bottom of the mold. That's okay. That'll probably, I can just chop that off later. So now I'm just going to peel back this bubble wrap, and it can be tricky to sort of find a corner that you can jimmy up. I mean, you don't really want to shove your finger right in the soap and gouge it out and ruin your pattern. What I ended up doing was using my skewer and just sort of putting it inside a half cut open bubble, and then using that to jimmy up a corner of the bubble wrap. Once you've got that corner released, it's very, very easy just to peel the whole thing back. It really doesn't give you much trouble at all. Very, very simple. There we go. Just pull that off the end there. And voila! That is so pretty. I've got the pink, I've got the orange, and then I've also got the sort of purpley pink underneath, which you can see sort of a different color coming out in some of those hearts. Oh, look at this. This is the ink from the pen line that I drew on the bubble wrap. It's sunk into my soap. Okay, don't do that, people. Don't use a ballpoint pen. I think I might have to actually trim that off. What I'll do, I'll just tidy this up first. Here we go. It wasn't my aim to sort of trim the edges, so I'm just trimming this now purely because it's got that black ballpoint ink stuck in the soap. If that ink wasn't there, I wouldn't be trimming this edge. So I'm just going to quickly trim this off. Yeah, I don't want black ballpoint ink in my soap. It's really interesting, actually. There's no ink left on the bubble wrap. It's all on the soap. So it's actually transferred from the bubble wrap onto the soap, which is very interesting. So if you're going to be marking out your bubble wrap, do not use a ballpoint pen. There's a little bit of black ink on this side too. So I'm just going to have to give this one a little bit of a slice. There we go. I mean, 6 inches by 6 inches isn't a lot to work with. First off, you really don't want to be cutting it down anymore, but there we go. I'll leave these two sides because they don't have any ink on them. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit with my knife. Just get off these frayed edges here. There we go. Looking pretty. All right, now it's time to cut. Be sure that your hearts are facing the right way, because you could cut this 2 different ways. You know, the hearts could be, you know, sort of running down your soap or running across your soap, depending on how you cut it. So make sure you check before you start cutting how you want your pattern to be and cut accordingly. So I'm just cutting this slab in half, and I've got these 2 halves here, and then each of these halves get cut into 3, just like this. I am using a ruler. I'm not one of those people who just eyeballs it and it comes out perfect. Don't feel like you have to be that person. By all means, use a ruler. I'm marking it out with a bamboo skewer, and then I'm going to score a line with the skewer, and that's the line that I can rest my soap cutting blade on to make sure that these are cut nice and straight and even, just like that. How cool are they? All right, I'm just going to tidy up and turn these around so that we can have a look. What do you guys think? I think these are so pretty. I mean, imagine them in a whole bunch of different colors and a whole bunch of different scents. I really love, you know, the pink and the orange and the purpley pink underneath. The hearts are a variation of all three colors, which is amazing. There's no obvious way to tell where those hearts were that I popped out, so as I suspected, it's all just melted together into one color, which is great. These are only the size of a small guest size soap. They're 50 grams and they measure 5 centimeters by 7.5 centimeters, or about 2 by 3 inches. But if you wanted to, you could make a larger, thicker soap. I did make one earlier. This one here, I actually just made this in a square cavity mold. You can see it's a much thicker soap, a more generous size soap bar, but still the effect works beautifully. It's just a lovely design, and it's just amazing how easy it is to accomplish just by using some heart-shaped bubble wrap. I really am wrapped with these, pardon the pun. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Please stay tuned for more projects in this series that I'm doing on super simple textures for melt and pour soap. So there'll be more textures that I'll be showing you, basic things that you can use just to give your melt and pour soap bars a little bit of pizzazz and really dress them up into something beautiful. If you like what I do, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Throw me a comment if you want also. But until next time, guys, enjoy.